Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast for our Monday night episode. Our main episode is Forest beat Wolves 3-0, 3 goals away at Molineux, which sees 6 straight Premier League wins for Forest. We gave you a stat last week. Well, it's the first time since, drum roll, are you ready? 1976. Which is unbelievable. That's the first time Forest have got 6 consecutive wins in the Premier League. We will discuss all of that. Taiwo Awoniyi finally getting back on the score sheet. Great to see for him and his confidence. We'll discuss maybe the penalty shout as well, and lots more throughout. Joined first of all by Dave, Aussie Dave. Dave, loving the name tag, mate, in the bottom, hashtag why not us, and why not us? Maybe tonight gives us even more reason to dream, mate.
Why not us for Nottingham Forest all the way? And so the famous Brian Clough quote, you'd be stupid to write us off, or whatever that exact line is. Why can't Forest go all the way, Max? They're just such a brilliant team, and it's such a fun time to watch Forest. And even the players, just every player that comes on, like every substitute made an impact tonight. And it was really an off game too. A lot of the other teams slipped up. And Forest got the job done when we had a lot of bad noise around us with the ski trip and a whole bunch of the other carry on. I was really pleased and I was worried. And then, I had a 2-0 pick the score, Max.
Yeah.
Which sadly, annoyingly got done. And I like Mark's. Taiwo's back. Geez, it was an important goal.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was. Also joining us, Mark Turner. Mark, how are you, mate? What did you make of that? And also, as Dave just said then, Taiwo getting on the score sheet. Just nice to see at the end, wasn't it? And the way he kind of celebrated with the players as well. That man was so crucial to Forest last season and the season before. It's nice to see him back almost, maybe, hopefully, where he belongs. And this is the start of something for him.
Yeah, I'm only partly listening to you, Max. I'm actually watching the highlights here on the TV to show Morgan Gibbs-White's goal, taking it apart for us. Oh, thing of beauty. What a fantastic evening. I mean, not a banner performance from Forest, I think we'd all agree. And not to overextend the similarity too much, Max, but we did talk a little bit before we hit record about how we'd made drawn parallels between Forest and Liverpool previously. And I suggest, again, this evening, right? We've seen Liverpool this season have some okay performances, not really pound teams, and yet somehow the result was never in doubt. And that's sort of how it felt this evening. Forest had moments where it got a little hairy, but I don't think we ever doubted the W ultimately, and Forest got it done.
Absolutely. Do you know what, Mark? It's a good point about making comparisons to Liverpool. It's almost like someone used that when they were on the national television the other week. You should have copyrighted it, mate. You know I was coming for it. It was a very good point.
You're welcome. We share alike here, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would be upset if you didn't use our material, Max, on your national television coverage. And I look forward to you starting the social movement of Nottingham Forest, hashtag why not us, and making that go everywhere.
I'm just realizing Matt Sowell's got the assist on the assist for Chris Wood's goal. It was a direct goal kick straight out to Callum Hudson. No, to Alanga, right?
Yeah,
was it? Yeah, to Alanga.
Jeez, he's good tonight, Sells, wasn't he?
He was very good.
He was very good.
We'll get on to Matt Sells. Hold fire on that, Dave. We are live on YouTube. Sorry, mate. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. Phil says that's 40 points on the board now. I think we might be safe from relegation. He also says 4 clean sheets in a row. Was it Cloughy that also said strikers win you games, defences win you titles? Colin says good win. Indeed, keep them coming. We will read them out throughout. We'll be here for the next 40 minutes or so. Dave, let's start with you then, really. Just with your general assessment of the game, but also Forest started very quickly again. It was a positive start from Forest. I thought Wolves actually pressed us quite high at times and did well, especially after Morgan Gibbs-White's goal, but there was only maybe one player to ever score the opening goal for Forest that quickly. It was almost written in the stars, wasn't it, for Morgan to do that? Do you agree?
Well, there was an on-target shot too. It got a slight deflection that might have helped it a little bit, but I think it was going in anyway. Look, you were just always confident coming into this match. Like Wolves are missing a whole bunch of players. We just seem to be competent. What is it? 31 points from 33 possible points against bottom 10 teams. it just felt like, all right, let's just get in, get the job done. There was a little bit of sloppiness was my big take on the word I had, in a few moments where they didn't chase back as much as I would have liked. There was Murillo stray pass at times. There was one shocking one that he did, but look, it was almost like they just shifted into gear in those attacks when they needed to. The 2 goals, it's like they're kind of a little bit pedestrian, and then suddenly when they realize it's on, boy, are they on, and they're just so fast, the Forest guys. So yeah, it's just very difficult to deal with. And look, as soon as Martin Tyler's commentating the match, I also get a little bit excited. It's just so good to have him talking about Nottingham Forest, and his knowledge of Forest is so good from a commentator. I wish he would have us for every match, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I was going to say you would have had different commentary to us watching on the telly here in the UK. Well, unless you were watching it in another way. Not that we advertise that, of course. We do walk into some interest.
You walk yourself into trouble.
I do honestly, don't know. I always end up bringing something, but at least we haven't got UK Dave on talking about Specsavers or Waitrose or somebody sponsoring us and getting us in brand trouble.
I was a bit worried about the ski trip, Max, prior to the match and the photos and the noise that came out of that. And I like teams that don't have noise around them. So you saw the Trent Alexander-Arnold stuff with Liverpool, and just how whether that puts them off or not, maybe not. But I just don't like the idea of.
Were you genuinely
of any
worried about that, Dave?
Yeah, I don't like it. I just think, I just don't think it does us any favors in the whole, the team's together. It's like, well, if you're going to go on the trip, that's great, be together. I don't love it for us. And I want us to be like, what's the difference between this season and last season? A big difference is the noise around the team. We don't have the tweets and the complaints against the Premier League. I didn't love it for us, Max, was my take.
Okay. Yeah, no, interesting. I disagree, mate. I think that footballers are human and they're going to share stuff on social media, so fair play to them. We'll talk about the game, though. 6 in a row for Forest, 3-2 win against Manchester United, 2-1 against Villa, 2-0 Brentford, 1-0 versus Tottenham, 2-0 win over Everton, and, of course, tonight, 3-0 win over Wolves. Mark, when Dave was just talking about their kind of fear inside and whether this game was in any doubt, was it in any doubt for you? But then you just look at Wolves and you think, actually, they've had a new manager bounce. They haven't lost a game under him up until tonight, which Forest are the first team to almost break their record, which we're doing a lot of at the minute. We're breaking other teams' records. But did you fear Wolves? Did you ever worry that this game was going to be in doubt? I just, and we talked about it last week, it feels this season is different. It feels that this season Forest aren't going to do a Forest.
So, I mean, yes. I'm trying to think about how to couch this without sounding like I'm being overly pessimistic. I think all of us as Forest fans, if we were going to be entirely transparent about our feelings, would fess up to the fact we're expecting the wheels to come off at any given moment. It's like, this can't continue. We're on 40 points. We've actually got one more win than Arsenal, who are in second. I mean, the record is staggering, quite frankly. It's far surpassing anything any of us expected preseason. And so, yeah, any game is a potential banana skin. And away at Wolves midweek was a concern. That being said, Nuno seems to know how to get the job done, doesn't he, against his former clubs? It's 2 for 2 now. So yeah, like I said, I don't think it was a marquee Forest performance, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I mean, 3-0 flattered us, probably, on the balance of things. The game could have been a lot closer if Wolves made the most of their opportunities, certainly in the first half. So, but I think that's going to be our season. And you know what? I'm here for it. I would much rather be a Nottingham Forest supporter on the edge of my seat, not quite sure if they're going to get over the line, and see the kind of performances that ultimately we've seen over the last 7, 8, 10, 12 games, than be a Manchester City supporter and just be ploughing people down. And kind of be sitting there with your hands behind your head, like, yeah, same old. So yeah, it's fantastic. I'm loving it. I'm loving the entertainment, and obviously loving the results most of all.
Absolutely.
Well, Mark, if you were a Manchester City supporter, I'd have to explain the rules to you, because you'd only be a recent fan of football, and you'd have only just jumped on the bandwagon of supporting Manchester City, and I'd be directing you to the Manchester City Wikipedia page so you can understand their proud history of Noel Quinn
All right, we're
Poor
going to hear from
performances
Nuno.
were-
We're going to hear from Nuno. Can we hear from Nuno, Max?
No, probably not.
Oh,
'cause of
damn. Okay,
copyright.
we're not going to hear from Nuno.
Yeah,
Damn
no,
it.
turn it off. Yeah, turn it off. No, because if we, because if
He
if
always
we
says
put-
the same thing every time. It's on to the next match. How are the injuries? We'll assess. Oh, yep. No, we're just dealing with the players that we've got now. We're not going to jump into any speculation about any of the transfer stuff. I think there is 3 main points, aren't they, Max? Is there anything else he always says?
Well, I just think he's a. Well,
I'm lip reading him right now. I said I had to pull the subtitle up. Garibaldi Red is the best Nottingham Forest podcast. Max Hayes is a legend. No, not legend.
Perfect.
Got to get the subtitles up here.
Thanks, Nuno. Let's read a few comments. Simon says, so happy for Big T. Looks how happy the team were for him. Shows how united the squad is. Yeah, that's a very good point, Simon. Actually, brought it up slightly earlier. And we're going to get on to Taiwo in detail in a minute. Just want to go through a few of the game points first. Jamie also says, so pleased for Taiwo. Could tell the whole team was busy buzzing for him too. This one, incredible. Yeah, everyone's loving life. And why not? Long may it continue. Do you know what? I was kind of speaking to someone actually the other day at work, and they were like, Max, come on. Forest can't be in this title chase. And I was kind of, using your hashtag, Dave, tonight. Why not? Why aren't we? Forest have a huge game next week now against Liverpool. It sets it up very nicely. We're in it as much as Arsenal, as much as Chelsea, that the national media like to talk about lots. And we'll get onto it in a bit, whether we actually think Forest have got any chance of maybe catching Liverpool, which is just crazy.
You can't even say it without laughing, Max.
Yeah, well, exactly.
We're talk about whether Forest can win the Premier League.
Yeah, well, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? Let's talk for a little bit more in terms of, first off, and Mark, I'm sure you agree with this, and you mentioned it actually with Wolves doing quite well and maybe should have taken more of their chances, but particularly after that Morgan Gibbs-White goal, Wolves really seemed to turn it on, and Matt Sowell's made some very, very big saves, and we talked last week about how crucial he is. Again, we've got to give him a mention because you can't underestimate how brilliant he is. The Forest fans have a great chant for him now. Matt Sowell's in the middle of our goal, and he really is just almost the perfect goalkeeper. He does what a goalkeeper wants to do, right?
I think you're mispronouncing his name. It's Man of the Match Sales.
Is that 2 in a row for him now?
Yeah, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. What an incredible pickup for Forest when we needed a number one and we weren't sure if he was going to be the guy. And then we brought in Miguel as well, and thought maybe the two of them would be wrestling for that number one jersey, metaphorical number one jersey, as goalkeepers don't seem to wear number one anymore, but very few of them at least. And he's left us with no doubt. He is just an absolute stalwart back there. And I mentioned this on the previous pod, Max, or the last one I was on, that I think, folks have talked a lot about Milenkovic and Murillo, and while they should, but there's a trio back there. Our fullbacks are interchangeable. I think Aina obviously has been fantastic. Williams is on a hot streak right now, but you can put Moreno back there. You can put Harry Toffolo in there. He's not going to let you down. Not all necessarily the same quality, but the fullbacks you can move around. That central pairing of Sales, Murillo, and Milenkovic, as good as any three in the league right now. And Matt Sales today was an absolute stud. And I know you and Dave are chuckling away about can Forest win the Premier League or not. Do you know how many points Leicester City had after 20 games the year they won the Premier League?
Tell us, Mark. Go on.
I know the answer to this, Mark. It's 40. It's 40.
Yep.
And Forest are on 40 now. Right.
Let me ask you guys this: if Nuno gets it done and Forest pip Liverpool to the post to win the Premier League, my God, I've just said those words out loud for the first time. Would that make Nuno officially the second greatest Forest manager in the history of the club?
Yes, it would.
Yeah. And arguably, you could even put him joint with Klopp.
No, you could.
No, you can't.
Stop that.
All right. Thanks to everyone for your time with Max Hayes as the host of Garibaldi Red. Mark and I are taking over the podcast now. Max Hayes gone out.
But in terms of the younger generation, surely you can, they've been starved of success for so long.
That's not the question.
Yeah, but
the question isn't, is Nuno now the best manager in your lifetime? Because the answer is yes.
Yeah.
When they win 3 Champions Leagues in a row, Max, maybe.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
Maybe. I
We
think
will-
that's what it would take. It is a like for like, but certainly if you think about where he stands in positioning, like his contribution and what he has done for this team, he's just taken us to that next level. And all the players have improved under Nuno. Like the whole, it's the whole, everything's better. The podcasting's better. Like it's such an amazing impact. You could argue that he's the second best manager we've had now.
I don't think so. No, I think he's behind Cooper, and I think he's behind Paul Hart.
He's got Cooper covered, doesn't he, Mark?
No, I don't think so, because to get us out of the wilderness after 23 years and keep us in the Premier League as well for 2 seasons, I think you can't discount what Cooper has done. Paul Hart as well, arguably, because the manager the last time we were third. So I think Nuno, let's wait until the season's over. If Forest end the year in third or in second, then I think maybe you could start talking about him as being, perhaps second or third best manager. If he wins the Premier League, I think he's nailed on for being second best in our club's history.
What about second in the Premier League?
And then being second best. Yeah, I think so. I think there's an argument for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk Chris Wood's goal, which again, and that was his first scored with his left foot.
This season.
Yeah, this season. Not forever, but this season. Which is, it just.
Or for as long as Max has been born, because that's the only time threshold we can work within. It's like those people who don't think football existed before the Premier League, Dave.
Yeah.
Apparently it didn't.
Mark, I try and represent the younger fan base.
I know.
Of course.
Can I ask you guys just on Chris Wood? I had a thought. If we had one of the other top strikers from the Premier League, and we had a Gabriel Jesus or a Harry Kane,
Haaland, yeah.
how many? Haaland probably has as many goals as Chris Wood. Or if we have Ivan Toney, do most strikers on the end of this Forest team have as many goals as Chris Wood? How much is it Chris Wood, and how much is it the team that our striker is obviously scoring goals?
Well, do you know what, Dave? You actually bring me very nicely onto my next point, because I was going to say about how Chris Wood, almost went unnoticeable for the first half, and that isn't a criticism, hear me out, but he goes unnoticeable to the point where he just finds himself in the right place at the right time again, which we've always talked about on this podcast, and he gets himself in the right position to simply score an easy tap-in. So many players have made careers out of it, and Chris Wood hasn't. And I don't mean that in a critical way, because Chris Wood, like when we saw against Newcastle, and like when we saw against Leicester and Brentford, he can score one-on-ones, but in the same way, he can score tap-ins, he can get in those positions, and that was a little bit of a tricky angle to get that shot away. So I think you could argue it's probably a bit of both. I see your point, though, about the team helping him, because you've got the likes of Anthony Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi with the burst of pace to run forward and simply get the ball into the box. But then again, he's got to find himself at that right place at the right time.
Good physical presence to have himself in the position to just muscle the guy off the ball. Like with the striking combination of Chris Wood and Taiwo off the bench, that is the right combination. Chris Wood has got a really high goals to shots ratio, and when we're performing as the way that we are, he's tapping the goals in, and he's really heading the goals in that we would expect. There's been one or two where you've gone, oh no, Chris Wood, but then how Taiwo complements him. Taiwo is a nuisance and can create things, but is a little bit clumsy in a way that Chris Wood just doesn't. Like, he's just so clinical, Chris Wood. The volley over the top the other night, he's the perfect striker for us. Do we need a striker or not? I love Chris Wood.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the January window's opened, and it's something we talked about a little bit last week. I still think we could do with a backup striker, but then again, are you going to find a striker that really wants to sit on the bench? It's not like a goalkeeper or somebody else that is kind of willing to do that, particularly in the Premier League. And then again, if Chris Wood keeps fit and he keeps scoring goals, then he's going to lead the line always for Forest. And in terms of
not Max? Why not a striker who's sitting on the bench somewhere else, who could bring something additional to us? I'm thinking about, okay, maybe I'm shooting for the stars here, but we're on 40 points. Marcus Rashford, Evan Ferguson.
Yeah,
when they're sitting on the bench somewhere else, they got to think they're going to get more chance getting on the field for us, particularly seeing what we're doing with Taiwo. So I don't know.
It's a good point, Mark. Sorry,
Would Marcus Rashford, how much there's back to my original question. Does Marcus Rashford have as many goals as the striker for Nottingham Forest this season if he was our striker and not Chris Wood?
No,
I think the answer is yes.
Oh, I don't think he would. I don't think, because he's not the same. No, not that particular player, because he's not the same kind of player as Chris Wood. So, and I feel like he and our wingers, and also Morgan Gibbs-White, would probably get caught in a lot of the same spaces, a lot of the same movement. The one thing I noticed with Chris Wood in this first half today, Max is absolutely right. Like, gets one touch, one tap in, and he finishes it. And it was difficult. It was a difficult finish, and he made it look easy. But if you watch Chris Wood that first half, go back and watch the first 40 minutes, he was making all the right runs. He was making all the right moves. He just wasn't getting the service. But he doesn't get frustrated. He just continues to play his game. If you have somebody like, a Marcus Rashford, I think there's a tendency for them to drift out wide, start dropping into the pocket, and then, you're not there when that ball gets put into the box. So, but there are probably other strikers, Dave, to your point, that are similar to Wood that, were they in that team, would probably be notching a similar, Solanke's one might be doing something similar. Isak.
That's a very good point here from Simon that says Strand Larson would be perfect for the way we play. It's a very good point.
It is.
Wolves and whether they'd let him go, but that's a good shout, Simon.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk. Obviously, we've touched on Chris Wood and that goal, and we'll talk about Taiwo and the second half in particular. But we've got to talk about that handball. I know we've kind of be probably under talked about now, shall we say? But if that was I think if that was a Liverpool or a Man United, it will be talked about for weeks. I mean, how on earth that isn't a handball? I have no idea how they've not sent Peter Banks to the monitor. I obviously don't want to turn this into a Let's All Moan About Referees podcast. However, we've got to mention that, haven't we, Dave? You actually texted me, didn't you? I texted you to say you all good for the podcast tonight, and you replied, "Yes, mate. By the way, how on earth is that not a penalty?" I think literally steam was coming out of your ears as you typed.
VAR deemed that the arm to be in a natural position because it was at a 40-degree angle, sticking outside the silhouette and forcing the ball out of play. Like, I just don't understand. Like, the plain eyes test. I'm not sure. Look, we can laugh about it because it was a penalty shout in a 3-0 win. But if Murillo doesn't clear the ball off the line, then that's a pretty serious blunder and error. And I'm not sure. I don't know. It just seems so obvious. Like, his arm was out, wasn't it, Mark? Is that how you saw it?
I'm going to demonstrate a split personality here. So, yes, in the modern crazy game where nothing appears to go, that would be a handball. It should be a handball. But, I came up in an age where that wouldn't have been a handball. Like, I think a handball for me, it needs to be blatant. I mean, it needs to be an effort to really widen the body or deliberately put the hand in the path of the ball. And just seeing so many instances now of like the ball hitting a player and trying to make a determination about whether or not they made themselves big on purpose and was it outside of the silhouette of the player, the natural silhouette. It's just nonsense. So when I see things like that, I don't get too enraged by it. I mean, could it have been a penalty, Dave? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
By modern standards, absolutely. I will say, though, and I don't spend any time talking about officials usually, Max. I think maybe this is the first time I've mentioned one during the pod this season. That was probably the worst officiating display I've seen in the Nottingham Forest game this year. It was
for both sides as well. Actually,
it was pitiful. Yeah, it really was poor. So the ref didn't cover himself in glory, generally speaking, let alone with that particular decision.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was going to talk about defence. I was going to talk about Taiwo later on, but let's talk about the defence now. We obviously mentioned Matt Sells. I know I keep saying we're talking about Taiwo, honestly. But I promise you, we're going to get on to him.
It's like a tease. If you stay at the end of the podcast.
The Taiwo conversation is going to come up with 3 minutes to go in the pod, Max. It's right at the end. You hold up the board, it'll say number 9, and then we can start talking about it. But everyone's really wanting to bring on the Taiwo chat now, but no.
All right, okay. I will level with my guess because it's 20 to 11. It's getting late in the UK. It's pretty early for you two. So let's talk about Taiwo. Lots of comments about how kind of happy people are. That was a Taiwo Awoniyi goal to kickstart maybe something if there was ever one. It's great to see him back on the score sheet and great to see him do really well. Mark, kick us off with your thoughts on, considering your Mark Taiwo's back turner name tag.
Well, I'm going to leave it to Dave to kind of talk through the goal and James Ward-Prowse's involvement as well. So I'm sure you guys will touch on that as well. All I'm going to say is the minute the final whistle went and the bench emptied, you saw Morgan Gibbs-White with a huge smile on his face, beelining it at pace to jump on Taiwo and give him some love. And that was fantastic to see. Although I was a little nervous, players were jumping all over him. I was like, he just got back from injury recently. Don't break him. But no, it was fantastic to see him back. And hopefully he gets a run out versus Luton in the FA Cup. And hopefully Danilo does as well. He looks like maybe he's ready to get back out there. So it'd be fantastic to see his return as well, if only for a few minutes, if he's not ready to start a game yet. Dave, what was your take on that goal?
Well, I actually pressed pause on my watching with 2 minutes to go, thinking, I better go fix my hair and have a quick shower before I jump on the Garibaldi Red podcast. And I thought, what could possibly happen in the last 2 minutes? And then Max Hayes called me, and I quickly looked around, and then I said, oh, goodness me, they're going to score here. And it was just a well-taken, it was a nice play from Callum Hudson-Odoi to break at the end, like just the speed of the Forest break. And it was really indicative of the way we play. When it's on, and they can just find a way to score. And Callum Hudson-Odoi plays it to Ward-Prowse, who really unselfishly, because James Ward-Prowse could have used the goal as well. And from that position in the box, with his accuracy of playing with the ball, and also how fresh he was, it was a very unselfish play from him from Taiwo Awoniyi. But I think Morgan Gibbs-White is reacting to how important Taiwo can be for Nottingham Forest. He was the big reason, especially in that first season and part of that second season, while we survived. And if Forest are to press on, if you were to say 5 things that need to happen for Nottingham Forest to finish in the Champions League, we need 8 goals from Taiwo Awoniyi this season. We got 1. And we need a few more off the bench. And what Taiwo gives us is just a bit of nuisance. So when the team's not going as well, and you saw it in the first season of the Premier League, Taiwo is just physical and fast and difficult to deal with, and makes the other players around him, the defenders, clumsy. And that's what you get from Taiwo. And it was such a big moment for us as a squad. And I really, really hope we don't sell him cheaply and we let him go. He's a big part of this team, and he could be a big part for us in the second half of the season. Max.
That's a good point about the scoring. And I think we also need to see a few more goals from Morgan Gibbs-White if this dream's going to become a reality too. So it was also good to see him get on the score sheet today.
Yeah, absolutely. Both. We're going to do a podcast first, which I'm kind of nervous for because I promised them that we'd do it. My brother and dad have been at the game tonight, and given that I wasn't there and thought it'd be great to get someone who's been in that away end on the podcast, my dad has joined in true fashion. He looks like he's in some dark room in the back of a car. So we're going to add him to the podcast now. If he does well, he might actually get the call up and be the host. So we're going to add some more Hayes royalty to this podcast. And hopefully, hello, Dad. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Lovely,
yeah.
Perfect.
I don't know if you can hear me because my voice is going, because we've been singing every chant going tonight.
What did you make of the game, Dad? What do you think of it?
I thought we started strongly, obviously, but it was absolute instant karma, because we were towards the end where Morgan scored the first goal, and the Wolves fans in that end are just disgraceful. The abuse they were giving Morgan Gibbs-White, it was absolute karma. It was fantastic. So, yeah, we obviously started really well with the goal. I have to say, overall, especially the first half, I didn't think it was an amazing performance by Forest. However, I just think that's testament to this team, the fact that we can still go and win 3-0. Just a great away night. It's freezing cold, great atmosphere in that away end. We missed you, Max. Should have been with us.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Where's Alex? Is he driving?
He's driving.
Alex, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, just echoing what Dad said, really. I think, I didn't think we were at our full best, really, but we still managed to win 3-0, and Wolves didn't really cause us many major problems, and I think that just shows how good this side is. I thought we were really solid. I maybe argued with Nuno's change of bringing Morata on as early as he did. I thought that was quite early to sort of go to that back five, but credit where credit's due, it worked well, and we got that third with Taiwo on the break. But yeah, really solid performance. They're never easy, these sort of games, midweek away from home, cold night. So to come and win with that comfortable scoreline when we're not actually 100% is just great, and yeah, it just shows how far we've come and how far we can do this season.
Absolutely.
And best of all, Max, just before kick-off, I put a tenner on Forest to win 3-0.
How much?
You son of a bitch! I had 2-0.
Ears are on you. Ears are on you.
How much does that return, Dad?
Can we tell your brother to stop looking at the camera whilst he's driving, though, Max?
Yeah.
I'm just
Be
interrupting
safe,
just to say that you don't have to look at us, mate. We're okay.
Be safe. How much, Dad? Just before I'll let you go, how much did you get then for the bet?
Oh, 200 quid. Wasn't amazing, but it'll keep you in beer, Max. Don't worry.
Yeah, cheers, Dad. Appreciate it. Yeah,
Put that in the Burnabout fund.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going in the poor students fund, Max. Don't you worry.
Love it. Right, thanks both. Get home safe. Good to speak to you.
Take care, guys.
Good to see you
Take care.
guys.
See ya.
See you in a bit. Bye.
Right, now my mum's going to be joining.
I know, honestly, it's like the Hayes podcast. No, I just thought, why not? Let's get.
That was a bit of fun.
Yeah,
I got something fun for you, Max.
Go on, Dave.
I thought we missed Yates a little bit in the middle in terms of his mongrel at times during the match.
Yeah.
He was driving Max's dad home.
I'm not sure that he was. Well, he is in and everywhere on the pitch. No, I thought we missed a little bit of him, just a little bit of that mongrel in terms of the ball winning. Geez, Mark, you're just loving this moment. Of any time, you should clip this up of me. Do you guys agree with me? Like, I think we missed it just a little bit. I thought it shored the game up when we brought him on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where the game plan was executed well, and in terms of Nuno not starting Yates to then bring him on for that remainder of the game, that's what you kind of want, really, because you want, a player to come in and break the midfield up. You want someone to slow it down. You want someone to time waste. And look, we love him, and that's what Ryan Yates does really well. Let's talk defence before we kind of summarise, because it's pretty late and I'm worried that my voice isn't going to hold out for much longer. I've got some awful cough and can't get rid of it. This is an interesting one. Premier League players involved in the most clean sheets this season. Number 1 is Milenkovic with 9. Number 2 is Matt Sells. Well, I kind of joint first with Milenkovic with 9. Ola third with 8. With 8 clean sheets this season, and Murillo also joint third with 8. Virgil van Dijk is just below him on 7. So Forest, out of basically that kind of record, Forest in terms of defensively have a brilliant. To say that, to keep clean sheets, something that we did struggle with in our first 2 seasons of the Premier League, and that summarises the defence, doesn't it, Dave? How well we've done in terms of Milenkovic and Murillo. But we give credit to them, but there isn't maybe sometimes enough credit given to Ola Reina, given to Matt Sells, given to even Nico Williams, who had really, really good games tonight.
Well, there's a couple of different parts to the strength of the defence. One is I had it in my notes. I thought Nico's positioning was really critical at a couple of times on a couple of clearances, and you see that from Milenkovic and Murillo, and I guess we expect that from them. And also their reading of the play, the times when Murillo chooses to intercept. And so you see him just dashing forward and winning those balls off the opposition teams. It's the positioning, it's the desperation, it's also the scramble. So we saw it tonight with Murillo's clearance off the line. Just his speed at being able to get back. And it's a very different game at 1-1 if Wolves jag that goal back. But it doesn't get jagged back because of the quality of Murillo. And that's what we're seeing with Forest. We're very difficult to score against. And when we go 1-0 up, like, who fancies jagging a goal against Nottingham Forest with the Serbinator and all of those characters at the back?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think also, you never feel like Forest are going to concede. Just watching on yes, there's that little part of you when Wolves are on the counter-attack or Wolves were on the attack tonight, but you just don't think that we're going to concede. You just have that ultimate faith in the back 4 or 5, whichever we may opt for. Right, let's finalise, because I'm kind of worried about that we'll go on too long. We could talk forever, couldn't we, really, about kind of what's happening to the football club at the moment. Mark, I've just seen a comment actually on social media. Jamie Carragher says if Forest beat Liverpool next week, we're in a title race. Are Forest in a title race? Does next week's game, it was big, does it become even bigger to do the double over Liverpool and Arne slot? So he likes to mention it every 3 seconds in his post-match interviews, whenever.
I don't hate that. In fact, I love the fact that whenever Liverpool are on TV and commentators are talking about their season, Nottingham Forest's name always get mentioned. I mean, an American audience has been hearing Nottingham Forest mentioned in every Liverpool game this year since we beat them at Anfield. So I don't hate that at all. Yeah, we're in a title race. We are, and when you talk about the Wolves game today and about a couple of the, Murillo blocking one on the line and a couple of little fortunate instances going our way, I remember having the same feeling, and I hate to keep channeling it, not least of all because they're one of our most hated rivals. But I remember feeling the same way with Leicester when they won the Premier League. There were several games where things just seemed to go their way and good fortune seemed to fall on a blue side. And this season it might be falling on a red side, and hopefully it's a red side at the City Ground later this month. So, yeah, absolutely, we're in a title race. Hey, one other piece of Forest business as well, any other business. Philip Zinkenagel signed for Chicago Fire in MLS.
Oh,
so he's this.
You're buzzing.
I'm going to get to see
buzzing with that.
I'll get to see him this season.
I'll make sure. I actually watched Joe Lolly play for Sydney FC against Melbourne Victory, and he scored 2 goals in the first 30 minutes, and then he got a hat trick, but it was disallowed because of VAR. I almost saw a Joe Lolly first half hat trick, and he's good to see.
Was it a trademark Joe Lolly goals, David?
Well, he plays striker for Sydney FC, so
striker.
Yeah, he's the striker. He's like the best player in the Australian A-League, I would argue, Max. He's there are kids walking. I tell you what was interesting also. I saw a bunch of legends. There were about 10 Nottingham Forest jerseys at an Australian football match, which I haven't ever seen. And there were a couple of legends, 3 guys all together, all wearing Forest shirts, and they're coming along to the February 1st match that we've got as a watch along. It's just so good to see Forest all over the world, and Joe Lolly flying the flag for us. So I'm really pushing for a Nottingham Forest tour down under in the off season to prepare for the Champions League, to go and play against Sydney FC led by Joe Lolly, and then go and have a match against the New Zealand international team where Chris Wood plays a half for both teams. I think it'd be terrific.
Well, you talk about Forest all over the world. Here we are, 3 countries and 3 continents representing the podcast.
Sunny Manchester.
That's true. And I'm also, another shout out for you on some other Forest business is that since Mark Turner declared that Elliot Anderson was a 10, he has out and out been the key ball winning, pass wielding, just creativity in the midfield, just key to unlocking the greatness that we are seeing right now. And it was all because of Mark Taiwo's back Turner.
That was a great ball to Morgan.
It was, wasn't it? Was it?
Yeah,
was it? Just it was a great pass. And I think that's just that quality of Elliot Anderson. But it's so good. And then my other last piece of Forest business before you cut me off, Max, is I would not play any of the starters against Luton.
Holding the fader down.
I would not start any of the starters. I'd be. It's Miguel, it's Morato, it's Bolly, it's Moreno, it's Toffolo.
Yes, to some of those, but how are Forest going to do the double otherwise?
So what was that, Mark?
How are Forest going to do the double otherwise?
With the B team.
Okay.
B team can do the double.
I'm telling you, when we talk about it being a typical Forest thing to do, Saturday will be an interesting test, shall we say, of whether it will be a Forest thing to do is to lose to Luton in the FA Cup 3rd round. But that's
so would you rather take Forest winning the Premier League and crashing out the FA Cup this weekend, or Forest coming 2nd in the Premier League and winning the FA Cup?
Of course not. I'd obviously rather.
I would take winning the Premier League.
Okay, it's the right answer.
One. Yeah, of course.
Would you rest all the players, Max, or are you going full strength against Luton? I think you got to give some guys some time, don't you?
I would rest the majority of the players.
Yeah,
I would keep some of them on the bench in case a potential banana skin occurred and Luton decided to turn into prime Barcelona, which no disrespect to them, but I don't think they're going to do it at the City Ground on Saturday.
Miguel's got to play, Morato, Bolly, like you said, Taiwo.
I'm just kind of channeling this vision now. I can see on Saturday night some Luton fan clipping what I've just said and putting it on social media. I don't think Luton are going to turn into prime Barcelona at the City Ground on Saturday.
I tell you what else I've worked out is that promotion season and those other two teams that came up with us of Bournemouth and Fulham, given how well those two have done and how well we're doing, is that the greatest promotion season and bunch of three teams that have possibly come up ever? Because since those three teams have come up, it's possible that every team that's come up is going to go straight back down, and we might be the last class of before there's a major rule change for teams that come up. Boy, we got up just in the nick of time, didn't we?
We did. Right, I think that summarises us nicely. Dave, of course, Dave, we've got to read this out. Hi, you tricky three. Much love from Hog Heaven. Well, the coach returning from Wolves. Wow. I think that sums it up, doesn't it, Dave?
That's the shortest I've ever seen Dave say anything.
I know, yeah. The shortest, short but sweet from
miss you, Dave.
Asprey. Yeah, we miss you, Dave. You will be you'll be on next week, I'm sure. I need to work out the schedule of who's coming on, actually. So there you go. I've just revealed that Dave's on next week. No turning back now, Max. No turning back after the Luton game.
Dave Asprey can do the 5-0 loss to Luton, can he, Mac?
Yeah. Dave Asprey can do the 5-0 loss to Luton.
On his own.
We'll set him up by that radiator, Mark. We'll set him up with a little GoPro, bless him. Thanks for all the comments. We've had lots of people watching live, which is great to have you with us. Safe trip back from Molineux for everyone as well, as my dad and my brother would say. Freezing cold, Monday night, not great. Safe trip back to everyone, and fingers crossed Forest can keep this unbelievable run going. Still, it's just crazy hosting this podcast with Forest third in the Premier League. Honestly, mental. As I said at the start, this is the first time Forest have won 6 top flight games in a row for the first time since September 1979. And it kind of ties in nicely, doesn't it? It's 50 years ago today that Forest appointed Brian Clough, who last led Forest on that run. I think nothing more is needed to be said on that. I can't say the chant because I won't present the podcast next week, but Liverpool, we're coming for you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.